If you were trapped in a school infested with flesh-eating children, what would you do? A mysterious virus has turned these innocent-looking kids into murderous savages, and you'll have to use everything in your surroundings to stay alive. I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat the child savages in Cooties. This man picked the wrong day to be a substitute teacher. Getting ready for work, this man Clint drives to the town of Fort Chicken and arrives at the same school he used to attend as a student. He walks into the school to see parents saying goodbye to their kids. That's when he bumps into a little girl who scolds him and says to watch where he's going. Walking into the principal's office, he's greeted by the vice principal, who tells him to hand over his phone. Kids aren't allowed to have any technology during school hours, so all teachers have to do the same. The vice principal tells him where his classroom is, but this man doesn't realize he's going to get the most brutal death of them all. Before class, he steps into the staff room to get a coffee. Asking around, this stuck-up lady tells him she has no idea what he's looking for and mentions that if he gets any closer, she'll call the cops. It's strange, but that's when he sees his old schoolmate Lucy sitting in the corner of the room. He walks over to say hello and the two hit it off, but that's when she introduces her boyfriend Wade, the PE teacher. He asks Clint about his job as a writer, and he mentions that he's been working on his first novel about an evil boat. The boyfriend makes fun of how dumb the plot of his book sounds, and with that, the first bell rings, meaning it's time for class. The man walks into his new classroom and introduces himself, writing his name on the board. None of the kids seem to care, and that's when Clint decides to tell them about his horror novel. This mean-spirited kid interrupts him to say he's looking at dirty pictures, and Clint decides to take his phone away, but the student tells him that he'll complain to the school if he touches it. Avoiding trouble, Clint invites his curly-haired boy Calvin up to read the first chapter. Meanwhile, the bully starts teasing the sickly-looking girl. He tries pulling on her hair, when suddenly he rips the entire pigtail off of her head. The girl freaks out and takes a huge bite out of his cheek before running away. Letting her leave is going to be his biggest mistake, because this teacher doesn't realize that she's already been infected with a deadly virus. Clint takes the kid to the nurse, who examines his face and tells him he needs to be taken to a hospital, with no idea that they're all moments away from a zombie pandemic. Later on the playground, the blonde kid approaches the sickly girl, who's playing by herself in the dirt, but he's going to immediately regret it. Suddenly, she attacks him, and within minutes, the blonde boy turns into a blood-hungry monster, wreaking havoc on the other kids. The supervisor comes by to check on the injured children, but the children quickly rip his stomach open and feed on his insides. Another teacher goes to check on the commotion and ends up suffering the same fate as the supervisor. That makes 2 down, with 15 more to go. The parking inspector calls the vice principal to tell him what's going on. He's under the influence, but explains that he might be witnessing the children eat one of the teachers. Acting quickly, the vice principal storms out to scold the kids, but suddenly they pull him to the ground and brutally rip his stomach open just like the others. That makes 3 down, with 14 more to go. Okay, this vice principal is an absolute moron. As brutal as it sounds, he honestly deserves what's happening to him because the man had every single opportunity to avoid this if he had used his brain. First of all, before going outside, he got a call from Hugo here explaining that he thinks the kids are literally eating Mr. Peterson. Secondly, the fact that he took a moment to look out the window should have given him everything he needed to confirm the man's story. Watching kids play hopscotch looks very different from a group of children eating the bowels out of one of your teachers. So running outside without consideration for your safety is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. He obviously should have stayed inside and called the police, using any one of these phones he's confiscated from everyone in the building. But if we're looking at the bigger picture, drawing more people into the situation might put the world at greater risk. As scary as it is, there actually might be a way we could handle this ourselves without letting it escalate into a full-blown zombie apocalypse. Now, the bad news is that we're completely outnumbered, and judging by the amount of desks per classroom, there could be as many as 75 to 100 kids that attend this school. The good news, however, is that these are just children. Fighting an army of pint-sized zombies is a huge advantage because they haven't developed the mass or musculature of an adult yet. This means if push comes to shove, we can quickly knock them down to the ground without needing to fight them or expose ourselves to their biting range. Another major benefit here is that this is happening during recess. That means nearly every student is outdoors, making this the best chance we have to lock all entrances into the building. Once we fortified our position and created a strong barricade of tables and chairs, I would try to attract the children to a single doorway, funneling them into a narrow threshold because this makes them easier to attack and limits the damage they can do to us. In the teacher's lounge, we can see here that there are 3 to 4 knives available to use as weapons, and if we tie them to mops from the janitor's closet, we can create spears to thrust through our barricade, taking them out one by one. It's very likely they have newspapers or magazines lying around the teacher's lounge as well, and these can be used effectively as bite protection by taping them around your arms and legs, where it's easiest to get bitten. Now, we'll need a smart way to attract the zombies, and that's why I would use this woman. Earlier, the teacher bragged about her personal alarm system she carries with her, so if it were me, I would press the button and plant it in the doorway to get the kids' attention. Then, I would send half of the teachers up to the second floor balcony, where they can take any large device or electronic device they can carry. When the kids start funneling themselves through the doorway, they can drop the equipment onto their heads, breaking their bones so they're less mobile. If we're lucky, it might even crush their fragile skulls. I know it sounds brutal, but a zombie is a zombie, and if you aren't willing to dehumanize the ones you love, then you're probably going to die as a human meat shield. Meanwhile, the teachers of the staff room have no idea what's going on. The awkward teacher points outside, and they all look out the window to see that hell has broken loose. Wade sees the carnage taking place and paces around the schoolyard. Realizing that his threats aren't working, he rushes back inside the school building while the children chase him down. He sprints back into the staff room and tells them to watch out for the kids. That's when the students appear from the window, banging on the door and acting very strange. They notice a cop arrive in the distance. He gets out of his car and tells the kids to calm down, but he has no idea what's about to happen. He slips his hand through the chain link fence, and one of the kids bites his fingers clean off. In shock, the man runs back into his car and drives away. Suddenly, a girl pops out from the backseat and savagely bites his neck. The staff watch on in horror as this policeman is murdered by these insane kids. That makes 4 down, with 13 more to go. Wade here decides to get the hell out and take some action. He walks out of the door and is immediately ambushed by the bully kid. Wade manages to throw him off, but the boy gets up and throws Clint to the floor. The staff try to help, but nothing works. Getting up, the student tackles one of the teachers into the locker to the shock of everybody. That makes 5 down, with 12 more to go. They decide to leave her behind and walk through the hallway. That's when they find this fitness instructor who tells them to follow him. He runs out the front door and is immediately brutalized by the children. That makes 6 down, with 11 more to go. The teachers freak out and run into the library. They spot Calvin staring at them, and Lucy asks him whether he has a sudden thirst for blood. The boy has no idea what she's talking about, so Lucy takes him along. Meanwhile, the bloodthirsty boy exits the locker, letting the rest of the zombified children inside the building. Wade leads them into an empty classroom, but this rabid little girl scares the group further into the room. Inside, the teachers discuss what just took place. The kids are eating people, and it seems like they won't stop until every non-infected human is dead. That's when Calvin interrupts their discussion to explain that they have cooties, because the first person infected was a girl. Lucy tries lighting the mood, but Wade simply walks away. Everyone is shocked and confused, so Wade decides to make a plan to arm each teacher with an instrument as a weapon. Clint tells them that it's a bad idea, and says they need to pick up their confiscated phones and call someone who can quarantine the children. Lucy interrupts and insists they calm down. She suggests they stay in the class until 3 p.m. when the parents arrive. From there, they can run to the roof and call for help. Okay, this is the worst idea in the world. Waiting until the parents pick up their kids has zombie apocalypse written all over it. If a parent sees their child with blood or scratches on them, the first thing they'll do is run toward their child and give them a hug. This is going to create a 100% infection rate from child to parent if we don't act now. And that's why if it were me, I would try to do everything in my power to eliminate as many children as we can before it spreads to the outside world. Now, this second floor balcony is easily the safest place to operate from, and if we can devise a long-range weapon to take them all out from here, then we might be able to handle the problem with a little time and patience. One of the best things about this scenario is that any physical blow will be a lot more damaging to these kids because their bones aren't as strong. If a zombie's legs or spine is broken, it will have a much harder time chasing you down. In fact, a child's skull is only 1/8 as strong as an adult, and we need to be using this to our immediate advantage. That's why I would ask the PE teacher to get as many baseballs and ball nets as he can, as well as long strings or rope from arts and crafts supplies. Using these together, I would fashion a makeshift flail, swing the ball down to hit their fragile skulls, and pull the fire alarm to make sure they're all gathering below us within striking distance. We'll have to take them out one at a time, but as long as they're attracted by the noise, we should be able to get the job done. Now, with that being said, we do need to have a backup plan, because the parents are going to be coming at 3 p.m. whether we like it or not, and we don't have access to a phone. With this in mind, pulling the fire alarm is still going to solve a lot of these problems. The benefit of this is that it will drown out any noise of the parents' cars as they approach the school, so the zombies aren't attacking them as soon as they arrive. In most zombie outbreaks, loud noises and the smell of flesh are the primary triggers of a zombie, and keeping these kids' attention in the school is going to keep the outside world a lot safer. Then, I would create a large banner with school supplies in the classrooms and write "Gunman inside, leave now or he'll shoot." The alarm helps the parents notice the sign and won't get out of the car if they have a good reason to be cautious. Nobody will believe there's a zombie outbreak, but they will certainly believe that there's a gunman and wouldn't dare staying to put their children's lives at risk. The cops would immediately be called by the parent, and if the the cops come in with the mindset of danger, they'll be a lot more prepared to fight off zombies than they would be otherwise. Glancing down, the woman notices a bandage on Clint's arm and asks what happened. He reveals a cut underneath, but tells everyone it's not Cooties. Terrified, Wade quickly grabs him by force and locks him in another room. The other teachers hold a meeting, and the awkward teacher announces that Clint is infected, but is only displaying mild symptoms. Lucky for them, he won't be able to infect anyone else, and probably won't turn violent. The teachers disagree with his hypothesis, but make a deal to monitor his symptoms, and if he doesn't turn, they'll let him out at 3 p.m. Meanwhile, in the playground, the kids have turned into utter savages and are playing with the limbs of the murdered teachers. It's a horrifying scene, but it's about to get much worse. Back in the classroom, the teachers have waited, and it's finally 3 p.m. Moving toward the second-floor balcony, they all watch as the first parent drives into the parking lot to pick up her kid, but she doesn't realize that something is seriously wrong. Without thinking, she lets her child enter the car, and he kills his little brother before moving on to the parent. That makes 7 down with 10 more to go. It's devastating, but suddenly another student grabs a teacher's leg. They realize she's not a zombie since the other kids are trying to chase her down and help her up before running back into the building. Arriving at the auditorium, they're chased down by even more children. One of them makes it inside, so Wade here has no option but to kill him on the spot. The man walks off while everyone looks on in horror at what he's done, while Lucy tries to calm the innocent children down. That's when the girl reveals that she's been scratched, meaning she's about to be infected. Lucy directs her to the girl's bathroom and holds the door closed, fearing that she might turn violent. She walks into the room where Wade is hiding and asks him if he's okay. He sarcastically tells her to go check on Clint instead, but she insists nothing is going on between them and that they're only friends. Meanwhile, in the boys' bathroom, the teachers take a look at the dead kid. They notice that his blood is black, so the awkward teacher attempts to extract his brain for further information. He brings it outside for everyone to see and explains that the brain is showing signs of necrosis and decomposition, the same as a dead person. This means that while the kids may look and act human, their brains have been infected to the point of no return. These children have been infected by a virus, and from the pattern so far, it only spreads to people that haven't gone through puberty. Okay, this is a game changer. The girl here has already been wounded, but she hasn't transformed into a zombie yet, and that must mean she's already starting to develop maturity. So as long as you've gone through puberty, you should be safe. Now, I don't know what that means for Frodo Baggins here, because he's arguably been going through puberty for 25 years, but he's not showing any more symptoms of zombification, so we should let him out of confinement. The more people we have to help us brainstorm how to escape these rugrats, the more likely we are to survive. Now, we've just learned that the kids' brains are showing signs of necrosis, which is the death of body tissue, but it doesn't mean they're fully dead yet. What's crazy about this is that when we look outside, we can see that they're still acting like children. Instead of playing with dolls and jump rope, they're playing with human body parts, which means they're showing a lot more high-functioning brain activity than your average zombie. From what we're seeing, this type of behavior shows they might still have an active limbic system to use socio-emotional thinking, which would come from their limbic system. This means not only can they play with each other, but might even cooperate with their classmates if their survival depended on it. That's an incredibly dangerous zombie to be up against, and it means we need to work harder to target their weaknesses so they can't use their intelligence against us. Now, normally, a zombie would also have damaged hypothalamic function, which would make someone eat and drink non-stop, as if they're never full. That means that they can only focus on the immediate problem satisfying their hunger, so we need to make sure that their focus is on food as much as possible to keep their higher brain activity from being triggered to take us down. With this in mind, I'd create a distraction for them and use this kid here as bait. First, I would look for any remaining jump ropes that might be in the PE rooms if we can still access it, run it upstairs, and tie it to several chairs. Then I would lower the kid down so that he's just out of arm's reach from the other zombies, and drip blood down on them to keep the horde focused on him. The kid won't like the idea, but he'll be a lot more likely to trust his teachers if we insist we know what we're doing and will never let him get injured. If the strategy works, the zombies will flock to the boy trying to eat him, and this will clear a pathway in the playground for us to break through the PE teacher's truck. From there, we can start driving through the herd to take them out and rescue the kid once all the zombies are crushed. Saving the human race is hard work, and sometimes we need to take risks if we want any chance of survival. Suddenly, the lights turn on and Calvin here passes out. He's diabetic, and he'll need something soon or else he'll die. They hear a banging noise from outside, and everyone begins freaking out. The janitor walks out to the surprise of everybody, and that's when the kids appear from the other side of the hall. They run into the janitor's room and ask him if he has any food, but the man only has seaweed. Listening to the radio, an emergency broadcast informs them that the town of Fort Chicken is being evacuated due to the spread of a deadly virus. No one is coming to rescue them, and the only way out is to save themselves. Clint asks about Wade's truck, who tells him that it can fit around 8 people. However, the key keys are in the teacher's lounge. He suggests they head over there and notices an air duct that might be able to take them there safely. From there, they'll be able to grab Wade's keys and find something in the vending machine for Calvin. As the smallest guy there, Clint is the only one who can fit through the ducts. Equipped with a walkie-talkie, Lucy gives him words of encouragement while he makes his way over to the teacher's lounge. However, Wade doesn't like this and thinks the two are more than just friends. She freaks out at him and decides to follow Clint into the ducts. They make their way through when they pass a grate connecting to one of the rooms. They keep quiet while one of the children look directly at them. The boy doesn't notice a thing, and the two teachers quickly crawl over to the teacher's lounge. Inside, they use the vending machine to get a snack while Lucy finds the keys. She tells him that she's going back into the ducts to find the phones. While trying to use the machine, a kid pops out of nowhere, forcing Clint to hide. Meanwhile, Lucy makes it to the principal's office but can't find any working phones. She leaves through the ducts, but one of the children already knows where she is. Suddenly, the vending machine makes a loud noise, causing the children to scream. Clint manages to put the dollar bill in, get the snack, and leave through the ducts, but the zombie is closing in behind him. Panicking, they crawl through, but realize they can't make it back to the janitor's room. Clint throws them the snack, and they exit through the principal's office instead. Okay, this is the last place you want to be running from a zombie. Looking at this blueprint here, we can clearly see that the width of the ventilation is only 30 inches across, and it looks to be about the same height. It's incredibly narrow, and if we take the wrong direction, that leads us to a locked grate. We're completely doomed. You might be thinking that our best hope is to find a shaft that travels upwards and climb up so that when the zombie appears, we can stomp down at him below. The problem is that these shafts are not nearly as strong as you think. They're typically held together by a weak support frame that's bolted to the ceiling and are not designed to hold the weight of a full-grown man. Now, once again, Frodo here has an advantage for being hobbit-sized, but the truth is, stomping a zombie to death in here would probably rip the entire shaft down and make so much noise that any other kids in the building will be drawn immediately to our location. Climbing back into the air duct is a death sentence, and that's why if they were me, I would make sure to take the zombie out of the room where we have more space to evade him. If you look against the wall, you can see that there's a filing cabinet which likely has paperwork from years of this school's records for each student. These things are heavy, and with this in mind, I would run across the room and climb the cabinet to lure the zombie towards me. Once it's standing next to the drawers, I would lean against the wall and push the file cabinet over, pinning the zombie down into the floor. Once it's stuck, we can bash its skull in with anything else we can find nearby. Now, this solves our most immediate threat, but right now there's a potential danger that nobody is taking seriously yet. This PE teacher is starting to get insanely jealous because he's seen his girlfriend talking too much to the new guy, and the more time you spend with this girl, the more it's going to piss him off. When we're in a life or death scenario on the brink of a zombie pandemic, laws and morality start going out the window very quickly. If the man gets jealous enough, there wouldn't be very much stopping him from using his enemy as a meat shield and feeding us to the children below. That's why if it were me, I would start putting my focus on group cohesion and cooperation. The more we trust each other, the longer we will last together, and instead of talking to his girlfriend, I would simply tell everyone that I'm gay. It's not true, and we might start getting too much attention from this guy here, but it would stop our biggest internal threat from being paranoid and trust us. They're forced to head into the library and haul the desk over to the duct so the kids can't escape. That's when they see the gruesome remains of one of the teachers. Horrified, they realize the kids are about to head over to the janitor's room and attempt to warn the others. They try blocking the vents, but now they're trapped inside with nowhere to go. Meanwhile, in the library, Lucy cries in Clint's arms and tells him that she can't believe what's been happening. He confesses to her that he lied about being a writer, has been a teacher in New York this entire time, and the only reason he signed up for the summer school program was to see her. The two make out but quickly realize there's more important matters at hand and shift their focus. Lucy calls Wade on the walkie-talkie, but all he can talk about is what happened earlier in the day. She tells him that now's not the time, but he doesn't let up. Clint takes over and admits that he's an absolute loser that lives at his mom's house, apologizing for causing a rift in their relationship. They settle differences and get back to the task at hand, as Clint here has a genius idea. He opens the door to see the children caressing the body of the deceased teachers. He throws over a bunch of pills of Adderall and watches as they eat it up. Meanwhile, in the janitor's room, Wade here takes charge and makes a plan of his own. Grab anything that can be used as a weapon and fight their way out of the school. Clint checks on the children to see they're no longer a threat after taking too many of the pills and realizes that it's now or never. He tells Wade to meet in the main hall, head for the back door and into Wade's truck. They leave the room without any issue and meet up with Clint and Lucy. Wade here takes charge and sees the first of the children. He shoots the kid with a baseball and continues down the hall, taking down anyone who poses a threat. The plan is working, and the teachers make it out of the building. They're confronted with dozens of children and decide that their only option is to go right through the savage monsters. The teachers finally make it safely to the playground. However, dozens of bloodthirsty students stand between them and the truck. Meanwhile, the janitor fights off the kids in the hallway. The teachers stand at the ready, and with no other option, they charge headfirst into the kids. Okay, these teachers aren't thinking straight. First of all, a baseball gun is cool as hell, but the man only has 13 balls he can use, and is relying on a massive machine that makes it virtually impossible to sprint away from danger. We should expect that his aim would become a lot worse, because he's shooting these balls from the hip at an off angle, and the only target that makes a difference are their tiny little heads. The smarter decision would be to take ammunition out of the equation, so that your weapon is as reusable as possible. This thing probably shoots balls as fast as 60 miles per hour, but you'll probably run out of bullets before you even make it outside, and will have to run around like an idiot to recover your balls. It's easily the dumbest weapon of anyone here, including this one, and that's saying a lot. If it were me, I'd combine this guy's weapon with the baseballs, because we can swing it as many times as we want while keeping the zombies at a distance, and still get the hard-hitting impact of a solid baseball to the head. Now, using the Ritalin was a great idea, and the fact that the zombie kids went for it proves that they're capable of much higher brain functions than any other zombie should typically have. It means these things are still alive and have memories from who they once were. So for the substitute teacher to realize this and use it against them was a great idea. The problem with this theory is that Ritalin is actually a psychostimulant. The medicine is designed to boost concentration and focus by increasing dopamine levels in the brain. It's also been studied in clinical trials that only 2 to 4% of patients will get sleepy from ADHD medication. And that's not a statistic I'd be willing to gamble my life on. At the end of the day, boosting a zombie's ability to concentrate and focus on their goals is not something we need at the moment, and that's why instead of giving them to the zombies, I would consider saving it for ourselves. Running for your life is exhausting, and the more tired we get, the more likely we're going to make a fatal mistake. This Ritalin helps us double down so we can keep our focus on staying alive with a lot more clarity, and suppresses our hunger for long enough to escape. The teachers try their best to fight off the kids without fear. They manage to make it to the truck, but not everyone is safe. Wade here is trapped fighting off the little killers, so he passes the key to Clint while he distracts the deadly hordes of kids. The teachers watch on as Wade is seemingly killed by the horde. Clint quickly drives off, leaving 4 Chicken behind, finally safe from the insane event that just took place. However, their troubles aren't over just yet. Clint realizes that the truck's fuel is running out, and they're stuck in the middle of nowhere. Suddenly, one of the zombified kids appears on the roof. The teachers freak out, and Clint here smashes the brakes, throwing the zombie child into the air. They look back to see what happened, and find the kid still alive, missing his lower jaw, and looking ready to kill. Having had enough, Clint reverses the truck into the kid behind him, and squishes the bully into a nearby tree. Continuing their journey, they continue driving until they reach the town of Danville, but something is seriously wrong. Dead bodies lay around the streets in front of them, and the entire place is a ghost town. They decide to go out and explore on foot, looking for any signs of life. The awkward teacher calls them over to an electronics store, where TVs are showing news footage from the local area. The reports say that the virus has spread to the whole country, and chicken products may be the reason why this is happening. Clint asks them if they've been serving chicken at the school cafeteria, and suddenly everything begins to make sense. The chicken nuggets they've been serving are infecting the kids and affecting their genetic makeup. Suddenly, they realize that dozens of kids are staring directly at them. They freak out and start running, making it into a pitch black building. They find a light and look around, discovering chicken nuggets spread everywhere on the ground. That's when they notice dead bodies scattered across the floor. A disco ball lights up, and they see kids trapped in cages. They see a flashlight from the distance, and suddenly Wade appears. The kids run out of their cages, and the teachers rush outside of the building while avoiding the deadly kids. They make it into a van, and the parking inspector is at the wheel. Wade sprays a mysterious liquid onto the floor and lights up a match. It's oil, and he sets the building in flames while watching the kids burn to death. It's a satisfying moment, and the teachers drive off while realizing that they've all just lost their jobs. But what do you think? How would you beat Cooties? Let me know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. Check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos like this. And don't forget that from now on, we'll be uploading on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Until next time, have a damn good day.